My name is Rich Schmidt. We're here with Rob and Debbie Marr. It's July 1st, 2025, and we're at their home in Sherwood. Thank you both so much for joining us today. First question to get things started, as you know, is why wine?
Why wine?
Why wine? Go first.
Well, for me, wine started back when I was a kid. Like my uncle used to bring a lot of French Rhone-style wines to our Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas dinners. And yeah, I never had much attention to it then, but that's where it really started. I was drinking beer, liked beer a lot when I was younger. Grew up in the country, you know, so as a farm boy, that's what we usually gravitated towards. As time evolved and I got through college, I ran into one of my coworkers. We had a Christmas dinner, and that's when it all clicked. He ordered a wine that paired so perfectly with my meal, and it just enlightened me to a whole nother level. And since then, the passion's been following it. We started joining wine clubs, we started chasing wine, we had our kids, we'd have wine with our dinners, and then one thing just led to another.
When we went to Napa about 10 years ago, a little bit longer than 10 years ago, we were there during Crush. And so that was quite an experience to see.
But why did we go? We went because of the passion that we had, the enjoyment we had. And so it was like our 10-year anniversary thing, a little early. We said, we're going to go to Napa, we're going to go check it out. And we didn't have any clue that it was during Crush.
We didn't know what Crush was.
We just ran in and all the winemakers were there. We got winemaker tours. There was this one French guy that really cracked me up. He was very dead honest about everything and just very blunt. Very memorable time. But
barrel tastings in the cellar with him.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. And so when we left Napa, after that experience, I came home, engineer by trade. So I do a lot of engineering design, water, wastewater treatment facilities. And I looked at my wife, and I was also very artistic, very hands-on type guy. And I was like, I'm just going to learn to make wine. And, you know, like many people have that garage story. Well, that's really the true roots of our story. Just started to dig in, reading a lot of literature, hooking up, connecting with people. In Colorado at the time, that's where we were, you know, wineries aren't a huge thing. There's a few. There's a select couple AVAs in the area, but they're not close to Denver.
The Western Slope.
And the Western Slope has them, right? And so just trying to connect with some people in the industry was a little bit harder, but you know, we just started knocking on doors and eventually worked our way in, got a few connections, and just kind of learned, and it was kind of a springboard for me, right? Just trying to really connect with other winemakers, understanding what I'm reading and applying that into principle. So that's really kind of where that all went. What about you?
I was a part of most of that story as well. We met over 20 years ago, but I was a part of the dinner parties where the wine would be paired with food, and I was shocked at how amazing that with the right wine, with the right food, you could really have this amazing meal. And so I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I ever saw us doing, becoming a winery. But when we went to Napa, it was fun, but you know, it was his passion to become a winemaker. And oh yeah, sure, someday. But then we came here to Oregon about 7 years ago for another anniversary celebration. And that's when I fell in love with wine country, because the people here were just so incredibly nice and easygoing. It wasn't pretentious. Everybody was friends with everybody. And so when we were here and we toured some wineries and he was still very interested in becoming a winemaker someday, then I could truly see it as part of our story and a future in it. But not as fast as it moved. It moved a little bit faster than...
Well, in 2017, we also came through Washington, and we'd never been to the Pacific Northwest at that time. And we had our family in tow. We took our camper and we, drove all the way out here, went all the way up to Washington. Claylock Beach. Really kind of fell in love with the ocean and being that close to it. Never really had those experiences before. And then when we were staying at Mount Rainier area, we decided to come down to Oregon side, and we went down the Columbia Valley, the gorge. And we stopped for a few hikes, and it was kind of like awe-inspiring to us how beautiful it was, but how similar it was in many natures to our home in Colorado. Minus the rain, of course. But so that kind of really was the draw. That really started the draw. That's why we came back in 18. It was just us and did the wine country tours. And then, of course, I had to work on you for a while. It wasn't an easy convince to uproot our entire family and move. It took a lot of convincing. But eventually she kind of said, oh, maybe.
So we're here.
And now we're here. That's right.
Our logo incorporates all of our loves of life because we met in Colorado. Our first date was a hike in the mountains. And then we always went up to the Rocky Mountain National Park, which is where I was born in Estes Park. So we would go there for hikes. It wasn't a typical date. Like all of our dates were more hiking, outdoorsy. It wasn't the downtown scene as much. But we fell in love with nature, both of us. And then when we were out here and seeing that you could have mountains, all the trees, and vineyards versus Napa being, not as hilly, not as green, not as lush. Then I was like, okay, I could do this. And then the ocean is 2 hours away too. That helped.
Talk about life before wine a little bit. Debbie, let's start with you. Tell us about, you mentioned being born in Estes Park. So tell us about kind of early life and heading on into school.
So I am an only child. Grew up in Estes Park near the Rocky Mountain National Park. And then we moved to Greeley when I was in high school. A little before then. I graduated high school in Greeley, Colorado, and then went to college at CSU, Colorado State in Fort Collins. Great school. My parents both went there, my aunts, so it's kind of a tradition. And then afterwards I moved to Denver. I followed a job. I worked at retail management. I have a marketing degree, but I never really used it. I just kind of stayed in the management side of things until this year. Now I get to do all the marketing and sales for our company. So it's been a fun 20-year flip, though 20 years ago marketing was a lot different. What I learned in school than what I'm doing now, but it's been fun.
So tell us a bit about the career, that part of your career, kind of post-college and before wine became part of it.
So I started at Mervyn's, California, is where I worked as a retail manager. I did that for about 5-6 years. And then I went over to a HOA management company where I managed homeowners associations. I worked directly with the builders, helped them with their legal documents, design guidelines, starting up new communities and getting those homeowners in there and knowing what they were to expect. I was a liaison between all. And I really enjoyed it, but I did it for 13 years, and I was at the point in life where I was ready for a change. He was ready for a change. The kids were at the age where if we didn't move, we were going to have to wait another 10 years. They were both still in elementary school. We didn't want to uproot them in the middle of middle school or some of those bigger years. So those were all the factors that came into play when we moved out here. And when we moved out here, I actually got a job at Durant in their tasting room. I just wanted to be a part of the industry. I didn't think we would have our own winery for many, many years. So I just wanted to work in it. I loved everything about how people were so friendly, and being a part of helping them make those memories on their vacation is what drew me here, because I had such an amazing vacation.
That turned permanent.
Yes. Now we're on a permanent vacation, right?
So Rob, let's talk about you. Where were you born and raised?
So we're originally born in Westminster, Colorado, which is just a suburb of Denver. Only remember being there till I was about 5 or 6. My dad was a massive farmer. He grew up in Kansas, had farm in his blood. And my mom was from California, from San Francisco, and she didn't know anything about country life. But she quickly adopted. She learned to really love the country. So I was about 5 or 6, we moved out to where the airport was built, which was called Stonehouse Farms at the time. A little small farm community. Everybody had like 1-2 acre plots. But it was still kind of a neighborhood. Like you could still drive your motorcycle down the street and your bicycles, dirt roads, that thing. So I kind of grew up, riding dirt bikes, bicycles, farming things, had a lot of animals. My dad, I don't know, he did chickens, pigs, goats, horses. We had alfalfa and hay, like all that stuff. So just kind of had that in my blood growing up. And then at some point, that's when Denver came in and announced the development of the DIA International Airport, and it was supposed to be built in that area. So that kind of freaked my parents out a little bit. And so we better sell now before this actually happens. So they ended up selling, and we moved down south, south of Colorado Springs, to a little place called Penrose. And it wasn't even on the map. And the slogan was, Penrose isn't on the map, well, neither is heaven. They used to have bumper stickers that said that, which was really hilarious. And it was just it was an apple farming community and cherry trees. It was really all it was. Just a lot of country folks living out their lives. And so that's where I went to school. So it was about third grade when we moved down there for me, and stayed down there. Of course, it started all over. Dad built his farms, his gardens, all that stuff, and the sheds, and I don't know, got involved in sports and kind of pulled away a little bit from, sports activities. But they were always very supportive. Everything, always following us around, always making sure they had our games. He used to commute every day into Colorado Springs, which was about a 45-minute drive for him, there and back, but he'd always be there. So that was a supportive part of his life, my life, having them there. I do have a brother. Failed to mention that. But we're 6 years apart. So we always had a little generational gap going on. But he very much followed. He did sports too, always helping out. So I guess that ultimately changed. So when I graduated, it was 95. It's when I knew I wanted to pursue engineering and building. I really like design, drafting, that type of thing. And so I moved to, I guess it was Phoenix at the time. So I went to a trade school out there for a little bit. Did a degree, went back for an extended degree. Ended up sticking around for another year as a student aide. School wanted me to work with them, so it was all like computer science type stuff at that time. And got my first job out there, realized it was just too hot, didn't want to live there. When you can fry an egg on a car and you can bend your steering wheel in half on a hot day, it's probably not worth it.
Not normal.
Not normal, yeah. When you're seeing the tarmac melt into the tires from the extreme heat, that's pretty insane. So I moved back to Colorado, and when I moved back to Colorado Springs at the time. And Colorado Springs was great. Reconnected with a couple friends. We roomed up together, found a job. First job was steel industry, and so fabrication of steel. I had a good mentor, but I was still very young and green, and he decided to retire after I was only 7 months in. So at 9 months, I realized that wasn't me. I couldn't handle that. So that's when I relocated up to Denver and followed a colleague of mine from school. He was up in Denver, and so he let me room with him for a little bit, and started working in precast concrete construction. And so it was all tilt-up frame, built in place, cast in place type stuff. Mm-hmm. And that led me to parking garages, of all things. And so developed parking garages and mixed-use designs. That was fun for about 10 years. And then in 2008, after 10 years of being at the company, I got the dreaded call that, the economy turned down. That was our recession. And they said, you no longer have a job unless you want to move to Dallas. And I said, nope, I am not going to Dallas. And we had just bought a house. We just had our daughter.
She was like 1.
Yeah. And so that was not an option at all. So we toughed it out. She took on a couple extra jobs. I think he worked at Butterfly Pavilion at the time, and had a lot of out support from our friends and our family at that time, which was tough because you just bought a house, right? But we pulled through. I found another job relatively quick. Worked for a baggage handling consultant. So if you ever want to know where your bags go after you put them on the conveyor behind the TSA counter, I can tell you. It's quite interesting, especially behind the scenes. It's a spaghetti mess of noodles everywhere, but quite fascinating technologies. And then I got into my current position, which was, I've been with this engineering firm now for nearly 15 years. And that we call it the claim to fame. I don't know if you call it that, but it was worked for 4.5 years on the Panama Canal expansion, the third set of locks down in Panama. And so it was a major engineering project. And it was one of the first projects the company put into what they call BIM, which is Building Information Modeling. And so we had to digitally design all these in a three-dimensional space. And at the time, the software wasn't really developed for that type of work, but we made it work, and we got awards for it. And so it was kind of a prestigious project for our company, really good. And been there ever since. And so that company pays for a lot of this, a lot of our adventure, right?
And they transferred him out here for the move, which made it very nice.
Yeah. So
You have like behind the scenes knowledge of like parking garages and Panama Canal design. That's cool stuff.
Right.
And luggage. I mean, this is like cool. I have so many questions that we'll have to handle off camera. That's amazing. Okay, so how did the two of you meet?
So we met at a bar in downtown Denver. It was called B-52s, which they eventually turned it into Real World.
Real World, yeah.
Those things on MTV, they used to have those TV shows, Real World, Denver, was filmed there. But it was after they closed the bar down. But yeah, we met in 2003. But anyway, so we went to the bar, we did the hike. So our first date after when we met was a hike in, what was it? Was it Granby that we went to? Did we go that far?
Pine. It was up in Pine.
Oh, in Pine. But we took my dog. So I had a black lab, and I'm a huge dog person. And so we took my dog for a hike, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. This guy wants to take me and my dog on a hike for a first date. I don't know. It was just one of those things. I was like, that's really cool. Like, he's just down to earth, nature. I was not a nature. I mean, I lived in Estes Park, but then I became a city girl pretty fast. So I wasn't huge into living in all this, but.
Yeah, but she held her own. Like,
he took me camping in a tent.
She had, this person had to be somewhat outdoorsy, right? I grew up outdoors. I grew up on a farm, so it was kind of like this person had to be somewhat attuned to my style of living, and so.
I didn't camp in tents. I didn't fish.
She says that, but one of the first camping trips I took her on at the Lake Granby, we went camping in a tent, and it snowed 3 inches on us overnight. And I knew she'd stay that next night. She was a keeper. If she wanted to bail, it wasn't going to work out. And she stayed. She toughed through it, and she didn't complain. So,
in the summer, it was snowing. It was fun.
It was, at that point, I said, maybe she's worth keeping around a little longer.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So, Rob, you mentioned earlier that your interest in wine was kind of sparked by you had a meal that just kind of like, so tell me about once that happens, once wine becomes something you're excited about, tell me about the path of education for yourself. What did you find was the best way to educate, and what did you find exciting about that path?
I think when it first became a spark, it was a realization of, it was a whole new a whole new world for me, right? Just trying to understand, like, what is Shiraz, what is Merlot, what is Cabernet, what is Malbec, like, and just trying to understand the different flavor profiles in the different regions. So it really became just, for me at the time, tasting wine. Finding different things. I mentioned earlier, we joined a couple wine clubs. One of them was Wall Street Journal, which, hey, they make okay wines. They don't make them, but they can get some stuff, right? But it was this experience from around the world. I think that's what really was appreciative from that. It was a cheap way to taste wines and have different experiences that way. And so we just started tasting a lot of different stuff. I did develop a flavor profile towards Syrah and Shiraz, depending on where you are in the world. And I never really went with the whites right off the front. Like, I just kind of jumped in. I don't know why. Maybe because I like bold flavors. It could be part of the reason. And so I never really dabbled with the whites a whole lot then. Although there are some that I did particularly like from back when my uncle would bring some in, because he was, some of those ones from those regions. So that education just kind of started that way. Just, I wouldn't even call that education at the time. It was just like, let's go explore, right? We started mixing our wines with our foods, trying different things. And we met some friends. Oh yeah, we like wine too. And then we talk, right? It's just kind of that natural progression of getting into this world. As that matured, and we got a little bit more in depth, that's when that Napa thing kind of came up. It's like, well, let's go to a wine region. Let's see what a wine region's like, because we don't know what that is. And so that was really eye-opening. Like I said, great experience meeting these winemakers during Crush. Like, everybody was busy, it was hustling, people were dirty, wet, like it was hot, like, and just, the workers were up late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're pulling the fruit out of the farms. The roads were all beat up, the trucks were massive. It was just like, being a farmer, I like big toys, and seeing these big toys, I was really fascinated. So, of course, I geeked out on her a little bit. And that kind of, when we came back from that trip, is when I said, I'm going to learn to do this. So I went down to the local brew shop and started asking questions, right? And he talked me into buying a wine kit for whatever it was worth. It was horrible, but we made the wine first couple times, and so I was like, well, there's got to be a better way. You can't just do it with these kits. I mean, they're good for their own right, I guess. So then we started going to the wineries in our local area and just asking questions and trying their wines. And we came across one, Turquoise Mesa, in Colorado. At the time it was Westminster. And Tom Bube was the winemaker, and Mary Joan was the everything else, I guess, if you want to call it that. And I just asked, like, hey, do you guys ever need help with Crush? Do you ever need help? Can I volunteer my time? And I think that, and they said, yeah, but from what I understand now, that happens a lot, right? A lot of people are like, but when it comes time, are you really there? Can you really show up when I need you? Because it's not like, oh, let me think about it. It's, I need you now. When the time's right, it's right. And so she reached out, and I showed up, and I helped out. And so we built a relationship over a couple of years. And I really got kind of connected with Tom a little bit more, and been able to really digest and pick his mind and his brain for a lot of information. He was a chemical engineer. And so it was a great resource for me, and we were able to talk geek really well over that time, right? And just really understand the microbiology and things, and how wine evolves and changes, and how it's fermented, and just everything. And that was probably the most educational piece of information and mentor that I could have had at that time. And he even gave me some juice at some time. One time he gave me some Merlot and said, here, go play with this at home. And it didn't turn out as good as his, but it came out pretty well. Right? It got to start somewhere. And then he made a connection for me into actually getting fruit from the Western Slope. And so we got some grapes, and then we made some grape wine, and it came out really good. And so, it's just kind of that one thing into a next, and just kept reading about things and trying to understand it, watching a lot of, definitely nerd out on webinars, YouTube things, a lot of good resources out there if you start getting connected the right way. And some things are just over your head. Some things you just got to watch 8 times, 9 times before it really sinks in. Or you just need that experience, right, before it actually starts to absorb. Without any theoretical teaching or going to a formal college for this stuff, it's hard. It's hard to absorb it. It takes a lot more time. Could I shorten my time span? Sure. Did I have the time to do it? No. Right? And so this was more of a hobby at the time. And it was just fun. So yeah, that was kind of the whole leading up point till we moved here. Once we came here, the Portland Winemakers Club is an incredible resource for anybody that hasn't been there. Hats off to them, because they got some old members and some very snobby winemakers.
In a good way.
In a good way. Like, they will tell you point blank what's wrong with your wine, and why, or what could you make it better. They're very critical. And that really challenged me to take everything to a next level. I owe that to Dennis and Marlene Grant. They came out of that club at Parrot Mountain. Dennis turned me on to that club. And just the connections I've made through that club, to Scott Nelson at Resolute, and on. Probably definitely going to leave a few out of that, but very influential people. And also people that came from the same roots and the same background that I was coming through. So very willing to help, very willing to, depart knowledge to me, and not covet anything, right? They were just very open and supportive. I think one season a couple of years ago, I helped them do some crush and some punch downs at Parrot Mountain. And I said, I don't want anything. To me, it was the knowledge, right? Let me help out. And you know, she's giving me equipment. She's like, here, we don't need this anymore. You take it. So I'm like, I'll use it, you know?
That's the industry. Everyone's just so welcoming and willing to help out.
Yeah. And so through the course of this club, submitted wines, amateur competitions. You know, at first it started with, you know, no medals to bronze, then slowly turned to silvers, and then the last couple were all pretty much all golds. And so, and everybody started, our friends and our family are like, what are you doing? Why are you still making wine in your basement? Your wines are, you know, better than some of the other ones we've tasted. Just trying to be encouraging. And so it became that onset of how do we get in? You know, at this point, this is like, all right, so if we're going to take this to the next level, how are we going to do it?
Still a long-term plan. It wasn't anything that was going to happen.
We always thought about this being like postgraduate for our kids.
After the kids graduate.
When we didn't have to worry about college, or we were still paying back college, we just had more time on our hands, right?
Time is the key.
Time is a big problem.
Yeah.
Can anybody invent more time in a day?
That's what we need.
Yeah, working a full-time job, maintaining a vineyard, running a business, making wine, there's not enough time in a day.
And 2 kids in club sports.
Bars, yeah, it's a little busy. Once we decided to make the pursuit, one of the club members I met is actually the owner of Cellars. I think you guys did an interview with him. So we connected. And through the same passion and the same avenue, we decided to kind of partake on this venture together. And by helping each other, there was a relationship that we could depend on each other for different things. And so we are making wine at the same facility, obviously under our 2 different labels. But if he needs me or I need him, that's how that works, right? And so he was a huge benefit for me. Tyson was too. He was able to find and network a little bit differently than I was. He's lived here his whole life, or I hadn't. He had a few more connections, and so he just started knocking on some doors. We agreed to do this together, and so he needed that, and so he started knocking on some doors, and so we approached a few custom crush facilities. A lot of them are like, you don't have any industry experience, we're not going to let you make wine here. Sorry, that's just not going to happen. Other ones were, yes, that's what we cater to that, but we're going to make it for you. And so no, that's not what we want. We're winemakers. We want to make our own wine. I want to be hands-on. Well, we can't help you. And then we found there's 1 or 2 other ones out there, like, you know, Carlton's or AVP, that were kind of like, okay, well, we can let you make the wine, and you got to be your full-fledged winery though. So you got to get your AP license, and then we're hands off. You just use our facility, but we have a minimum. Well, what's your minimum? 5 tons. Well, I don't want to make 5 tons to start. Like that's too much for me. Like I just want to broach the industry, right? Let's get in and see how this happens. And it's a cost and numbers game, is what it really comes down to. Well, through those connections, we found Eric Berg, Ricochet. And he was right on that fringe of, do I do this jump or do I not do this jump? And so all that you know in the industry, he has made that jump into the industry space, and he decided to launch his own brand even further by hosting this new really cool facility. And it has a nice vibe. It's like an industrial space that people come taste wine and watch winemakers work. Like that's kind of unique. So we talked to him. We obviously sold him a really good story because he agreed to take us in at a small amount without a whole lot of experience. And so that's where we named our first wine opportunity. It's named after that venture. Eric gave us that opportunity to get in. And it is our French Rhone classic blend of Roussanne, Marsanne, and Viognier. And so we're just thankful, right? And so, you know, but that whole growing experience of that first year, getting 1 year under your belt is a huge growth too. There was a lot of things learned, but very supportive, collaborative environment. All the winemakers there are incredible to work with. They're all very, very friendly, very knowledgeable people. Some younger, some older, right, as far as the terms of their brands are. But, you know, there's 3 of us that came out of there. This is our first year. So we're fostering new generation of winemakers, right?
So Debbie, tell me about this sort of timeline from your perspective. Tell me about watching this happen and participating in the ways you're participating.
So it definitely went faster. I've said that a few times. He's been making wine and enjoying it, but I never thought it was going to move to the professional level until the kids were out of high school, and we had a little bit more time to focus on it. But then, like he said, the opportunity came up that Eric had a space. He was moving his location. He'd have room for us, and it was a whirlwind. We basically knew that we signed the lease end of July, beginning of August, and then our fruit wasn't supposed to come in until the middle of September. It came in September 8th. And
It's in the facility.
yeah, we basically got the call that your fruit's ready, you need to come pick it up in the next 2 days. And so we had to haul the bins up there. It was after the kids had a game. I think there was a volleyball game, maybe a soccer game. Finished that up, then loaded up the truck, drove up there, got there about 2 a.m., dropped off the bins. They harvested at 6 a.m., and we picked it up by 8 a.m. and then brought it back. We were the first in the facility to bring in grapes. So it was really cool. All the tenants came and were helping because it was just, we're breaking in the new equipment. Everyone, it was a really fun environment. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind. So trying to come up with the logo and doing the label, I mean, everything was, I thought I had 5 to 10 years, and we did it all in about 30 days.
Most of these things are probably premeditated on a longer scale, even though this has been a passion. It's never been like, let's do this. And all of a sudden it was like, oh crap,
do this.
We're under the gun.
The legal side, you know, how do we get...
We need that, we need this. And it was just like all this stuff just flying at us. From insurance, which was extremely difficult, to the branding piece of that and our logo, our design, to making connections to secure products. Like it's been fun.
But now I get to do the part that I wanted to do. Like I get to do the events, and I get to do the marketing online. I get to do the advertising. All that's what I was excited to do. It came a lot faster.
That's a pretty accelerated time.
Yeah.
So tell me about, you mentioned you're basically a year in at this point. Tell me about all the things you had to learn. What was a surprise? What were the surprises of starting a wine brand?
The cost is a little bit higher than...
The cost and the sticker shock, yeah, that was a little bit more, because I think we had a vision of we can make wine for X amount of money, and then you throw all the other things on top of it and realize that was extremely underestimated, right?
You've made it in the basement, so you know how much the grapes cost.
Yeah.
Any additives, CO2, those pieces, we had set numbers, but then all of a sudden there's labels and there's insurance and there's...
Yeah.
I mean, even the rent wasn't a big deal. It was all these other little pieces that...
We were shocked by the label prices.
And then the bottles, the corks, like all of it.
Yeah, but the labels were the most sticker shock, I think. Yeah. The experience of doing a mingle is a real thing, right? When you're working with 7 or 8 other winemakers in a space where you're all doing crush together. Just that dance of moving things around in ever evolving space is real.
Go in one day and the wine was here and the bin, and then all of a sudden now it's over here, and then it's tucked up behind a corner, and
who knows, right? It was always a goose hunt. So that was an interesting experience in learning that. I wouldn't say it was necessarily challenging, it was just hard. Because there's always the, we're going to go in and do this, it should only take us 2 hours, and we're in up there for 6 hours, because 2 hours it took us to remaneuver and reposition everything just so we could do our work, right? And then putting it all back and cleaning up. So that's always, there was don't plan for dinner type conversations a lot. I just don't know when I'm going to come home. There was a couple 3 o'clock in the morning nights through our first experience, which is fine, right? It's expected. The other part I think has been a little challenging, or more, I think, is well, now that we have the brand and that we have the wine, now you got to move it.
yeah.
And storage that's a real cost that we didn't anticipate having. Where do you store wine after it's made? Can't keep it at the facility anymore. Can't have case goods, and so cold storage is expensive. Luckily, we have a little bit of space in this house, in a conditioned space, that we're able to, make things work. But that's a real cost. And then obviously, like I mentioned, the selling. The selling is, how do you tell a story to somebody? How do you make it interesting, right? How do you
keep it concise to you have less than a minute at a wine walk, at a farmer's market. Like, how do you draw them in and want them to try your wine and stay there and continue drinking your wine and purchase it in a concise, quick story?
Yeah, because we don't have a tasting room, right?
Right.
I mean, we're small. It's me and her, and so we're pop-ups. There's a couple people that do this, like Catman Cellars, that we're trying to really follow that type of model for now. But we got to be mobile. And so how do you get attention but yet articulate that really quickly? It's been fun, but it's a hustle, right?
That's my favorite part, is the events. Getting to meet all the different people that are coming out, get their opinions, their thoughts.
And being a first year, and I can say that I honestly had a little bit of a fear factor, right? Just because my friends and family like my wine, what is the public going to think, right? And I think because, again, go back to the no formal training aspect, right? I'm all self-taught, so what are other people going to experience? And to me, wine's not a taste or a flavor, it's an experience of how that feels in the mouth. And that's the way I try to sell it. And that's the way I try to tell people about it. It's what you're going to experience. I don't know what you had for breakfast. I don't know what you had for lunch and how that's going to change that flavor profile for you, but I can say how it's going to fit and feel in your mouth. And I think that's been well received. Yeah.
So obviously we're sitting here with vines behind us, behind you at least. So tell us about that part of the venture.
So when we found this property back in 18, it was December of 18 is when we closed on the house, but we moved in 19. We knew we wanted to be in a rural section. We didn't want to be in town. We knew we wanted to have space for goats and chickens, my garden, a vineyard of sorts, because we loved all the vineyards, but we weren't really sure exactly what we wanted. And this property came up. This was all trees behind us. But we had this vision that if we could remove some of the trees, it would open up the view. This was more sold as a forested home. And we wanted to open up the views. I like the sunshine. I like it to be bright and open. So that we just opened it up and see what happens. And we got an amazing view, and then became all the work of trying to remove the tree stumps and those trees to get the vineyard in. So it's been a long process. The first grapes didn't hit the ground until fall of 21. Yeah. So it was a 2-year process of getting the trees out, because it was all done by him for the most part, and equipment. We had professionals come in and remove the trees and the stumps, but then all the burn piles, the trellising, fencing. We've got at least 10 or 15 deer that live up here. We have 3 babies running around right now, like little spotted ones. But because of that, I had to put in a 6-foot deer fence. So it was just a very long process, because he's working full time, trying to make wine in the basement, take care of the kids' volleyball games, and put it in a vineyard.
Single-handedly put that whole thing in.
But then in fall of 21, we got 988 plants. He likes to say 1,000, but I'll say the exact number, of Chardonnay and Pinot grapes. I know. And it was his mom and dad and my mom and our 2 kids and us that went out there, and he was drilling the holes and I was dropping the grapes in, and they were helping with all the other pieces, and we hand planted every single one in about 2 days. And it was a family event. We had everybody out here, and it was fun.
Yeah, it went in pretty quick after we had the infrastructure in place. So like many people, Pinot Chardonnay grows really good here. It's got the great aspect for it. I think our vision, though, right now, most of the fruit's being sold off. And this will be their 5th leaf officially. So we expect, when we put it in 21, we did have that frost in 22. So I thought all the vines had died. It was pretty sad. But they slowly came back in secondaries. They were pretty young, but luckily we planted them down pretty deep, so they did recover. But even though it's my 5th leaf, I'm really only here 4. So there are, it's not going to be a full harvest, but I think our vision's maybe making pet nats or something like that.
Why that?
Because sparkling is interesting. Sparkling seems to be very popular, especially the natural style, and everybody's doing them. So I figured maybe I need to get in the game a little bit with something sparkling. Just seems to be a little bit more of a conversational piece and engaging for some of the younger crowds as well.
And we're trying to differentiate ourselves from the market because everybody does make Pinot and Chardonnay, and they're all lovely, but that's where his vision was to try and do more Rhone styles with the Grenache Rosé and the Viognier, and we're going to release a GSM in the fall. So just something that's a little bit different than the Pinot Chardonnay Valley, but obviously we have the land that is perfect for Pinot and Chardonnay. So if we can incorporate and have some sort of an estate style wine, I think that'd be fun to sell, something that's estate grown, but not necessarily a Pinot or Chardonnay. So something, no skin contact, turn it into a bubbly, make it fun, different. We'll see how that all goes out.
So once you had the kind of the notion of starting the brand, tell me about securing fruit, figure out what you wanted to make first, and then starting to kind of figure out how to secure it and build those relationships.
So I can definitely build off of what she just finished with. So we're focused. Our focus of our brand is, again, the Rhone styles, and so there's about 18 cultivars there that were really interesting, but finding those here in Oregon, besides Viognier, are nearly impossible. And we made Viognier here from Oregon in a cold style, but the acidity on it is so bright that it lost its ability to really express itself, in my mind. And obviously, there's different winemaking styles, right, that can change that. But it was just hard to play with. And Viognier is very particular to me. Like, you got to catch it at the right time, because it can either go way too alcoholic, way too sugary, or it can be too tart and acidic. And so finding it right in the middle is tricky. So we secured our first experience with our Viognier and our Roussan and our Marsan through Jared at Alexandria Nicole out of the Columbia Valley. And they have this beautiful vineyard up. It's called Destiny Ridge. It overlooks the Columbia Gorge. If anybody hasn't been there, you should. It's absolutely gorgeous space. But a lot of their focus, half their offerings are Rhone styles. And so, just tasting through different selections and fruit, trying to find out what I really liked and what my vision of the wine that I wanted to craft was finding something similar that I could get my hands on some fruit. And so when we did go out there, they had their shepherd's mark, and it won many medals. And that was the wine. That was the blend that I wanted to try to recreate in my mind. And so we had a discussion with my other partner, Tyson, because, it's kind of what we're doing a little bit, and just, hey, where do we want to get our fruit from? And try this. And he was, yep, that's what we'll do. And so that's where so making that relationship was actually fairly easy, because Sarah and Jared are really easy to work with. And this market is, anybody that grows fruit is happy to sell it. There's a lot available, right? So that was easy. Our Grenache Rosé came from Knox Road Vineyard out of Yakima. And I have through my home hobbies, have bought fruit from Walt for a couple years past, since 21. Yeah. 21, 23, and then last year as well in 24. So we already had that relationship with Walt. We just asked if he had more available, and we were already there. And Walt's easy to work with. They're very good. They're good. They pick clean for us, but he's also very open in communication. You tell him exactly what you want, and he's on it. So. Yeah.
Except for calling the night before saying, get your bins ready and get down here. But I think that's any of them.
He still gave us a head.
Darn grapes.
So in moving forward, with the reds and stuff, they're also coming from Alexandria Nicole as well. We just really like their vineyard and their site, their soil. They get really hot days, but really cool nights. So it really helps make the fruit express itself.
So you've mentioned obviously that you've been self-taught winemaker. So tell me about the process for yourself of learning to make wine. What have been some of the sort of the interesting challenges along the way, and how would you describe your winemaking style now?
So the biggest challenge was learning to make the proper adjustments early on. You don't make wine post-fermentation, you make wine pre-fermentation. And if you can manage those aspects and learn to manage those parameters appropriately, you come up with pretty good wine. It'll almost make itself. So I like to be, we definitely like to be minimal interventionists. I don't want to change a wine or force a wine to be something that's not. I want it to be expressive of its terroir and its location. But knowing those things, there are some things you just do, you just naturally have to push it in one direction or another, slightly nudge the wine, if you will. One of the biggest things for us was making the decision of, do we keep our whites in stainless or do we barrel age our whites? And I think that really was what differentiates us and our brands and our styles is the creamy complexity that we get in our mouthfeels, and that is because of the barrels. So we do all our fermentations in stainless, but then age and barrel. The learning process, jumping back one more, acid adjustments are a thing, right? I think understanding the complexity of acids and how they relate is not easy, and that really took a lot of time to understand, and that's something I probably could have benefited more from college or a formal course. Learning that on your own was not easy. Definitely a challenge. Definitely made some wines that were not very good or too flabby. Went both ways. But yeah, learning to control that was very helpful. I don't know if there's any other real challenges. Everything else kind of came naturally. What else did I challenge with? Oh,
smoke.
Yeah, smoke taint was fun.
Because you made wine that year.
Yeah, I decided to make some home Pinot that year. And I was pretty much ready to dump it down the drain. It would taste like an ashtray. She encouraged me to keep messing with it, and so I took the opportunity as, hey, this is a play wine. Like, we'll just figure it out, right? And I don't think anybody really knew how to handle it at the time.
Not to that extent.
Not to that extent. And so, through time, and now
it's drinkable.
Now it's a drinkable wine. It's knowing where it was and what it is.
Yeah.
I'll sit down and I won't, a lot of times you go down to your cellar, you're like, I don't want to choose that wine, right? Because I have all these other ones to choose, and why would I drink that? I'll pick it up from time to time and I'll enjoy it. So.
The little ugly duckling wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called it Hellfire for a while.
Yeah. The whole year.
Yeah.
It's a dumpster fire.
It was not fun, yeah. But.
So Debbie, you have you're comfortable on this side of the camera. Tell us about the other part of your career.
So it started back when I was a kid. I was in choir and I did musicals. My mom and I actually did a lot of musicals during the summer. There was a professional theater in Greeley that we would do summer shows. And that was a lot of fun. I loved anything theater, musical aspect. But when I went to college, I realized that there's not really money in it and I needed a career. So I went into business marketing. And then after graduation, it was kind of one of those things in the back of my mind. I loved doing it, but I wasn't going to go back to it. But then when our daughter, our oldest, was 5, she wanted to take a little acting class at a community center, and she fell in love with it. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have somebody to do theater with now. So I found a couple local theaters, and there was a musical. So when she was 5, we went and tried out for Miracle on 34th Street. And the best part was when I went to go take her for the auditions, he is like, you are not doing a musical. You have a 1-year-old at home. And I'm like, I know, I'm not going to try out. And of course, then my mom, who also had done musicals with me, she's like, I'll try out too. So we get there and we're filling out the form on who's trying out. And I'm like, all right, and I wrote my name real quick. And so all 3 of us got in. So it was 3 generations, my mom, me, and my daughter in this musical, and it was so much fun. And I realized how much I still had a passion for it. I just hadn't had the time. So we did, yeah, you're welcome. So we did that show, and then we did Fiddler on the Roof after that together, the 3 of us. And then when my youngest daughter was about 4, we did our first dinner theater together. We did Scrooge for Christmas, and that was fun. So then I had me and my 2 daughters in a musical together. So I loved it. They enjoyed it while they were younger. When we moved out here, They both kind of fell in love with soccer and volleyball, and they found their own thing that wasn't going to be musical like me, and that's fine. But then I saw a posting for George Fox had their film department. They needed some people to do a short film that the students had written. And I thought, oh, I've always wanted to do film, but I never got into it. So why not? I'll just go try out. And tried out, and I got the role of one of the lead's mom. And then I fell in love with it, being on this side of the camera, being able to to do all the acting that I would do in a musical, but in a short period of time, because it was a 3 or 4 day commitment versus a 3-month commitment. And I just loved everything about it. So from there, I just started applying for anything that I could as far as student films, industry films, commercials. I got a talent agency. I signed with one in Washington and one down here after about a year or so, filled up my resume. And from there, I did Coastal Farm and Ranch commercial, Point S commercial. Those are probably the 2 bigger ones. But I have, I think, 75 credits now on my resume. They're from non-paying student films to professional. So it's been fun. I've kind of put it on the back burner, though, because the business is kind of keeping me busy right now. But
you have more like live action theater now in your life, where you're selling
yes,
wine,
yes,
it's performing in front of people.
Yes, yeah,
for sure. What's your favorite thing you've been in so far? Favorite role or favorite performance?
Oh gosh, there's all of them are fun for different reasons. But one of my films actually just came out, and I haven't seen it yet. But it was Legend of the Forest, and I play the mom. That's kind of a typecasting role. Play the mom of the lead, and I'm this angry, alcoholic, horrible mom. But it was just fun to take it to this whole new level. Get out of my comfort zone of who I am, and just go crazy. So I do need to watch that soon.
I like the skit you did where you're the doctor. That was fun. The surgeon.
Oh, I was a forensics doctor doing an autopsy on a murder victim. I mean, I've done all sorts of fun stuff, yeah. I can't think. There's a lot of them.
I love it. So now that you have hit the fast forward button and you have all of this wine in your lives now, so I have a couple of questions about. Let's talk about the events first.
Okay.
You mentioned that the marketing, the events part you're excited about. So tell me about getting your wine in front of people, getting people excited about your brand. What have been the things you've done so far, and what is sort of the plan going forward for selling the wine?
So our first event was the Sherwood Wine Walk on May 8th, which made a full circle for us. So September 8th, the grapes came in. May 8th is when we released our wine to the public. And we were so fortunate to release it to our community. Instead of it being in a different city, it was right here in Sherwood. So that was probably one of my favorite events and our most nerve-wracking, because that was the time to showcase our wine to our friends and family and hope they like it. We were both probably the most nervous for that event. And then once we had one under our belt, we were okay. But we've done Tiger Wine Walk, Salem. All of them are good and bad for different reasons. Sometimes it's location, sometimes it's weather, sometimes just the crowd that's coming out. They're just there to drink wine. They don't care about your story, or they are there because they want to bring home some wine. So tell them about it so they are excited to bring it home. And then now we're going to try and dabble in a few farmers markets, McMinnville and Sherwood, see how those go. We in the industry, a lot of people give us advice on what works for them and what doesn't work. And so we're trying to just try everything once. And then if the event is not a good fit for us and what we want to do and how we want to sell our wine, we won't go back. But I think we want to give every event an option, at least once. And then trying to get into some of the bigger events like Newport Seafood Wine Festival, Portland Seafood Wine. Those ones tend to be a little bit tougher because they've got their core group that's there. And those are the people that get to register first. So just seeing where there's space available that we can squeeze in and give them a try.
Yeah, no, she's been a great, I call it squeaky wheel, but she's been great at knocking on doors, just finding things, making connections through the social media stuff. This is stuff I can't do. Like I'm busy with the other job, so she's
I don't understand all the fermentation stuff, but I can tell you
pounding
all
on
about
doors.
sales.
She's connecting us. It's like 5-6 events a month. How do we fit it in? This and that. And then a connection through Tigard. They reached out and said, we really liked your rosé. Would you like to partake in a fundraiser event at the Roses and Rosé at the Rose Garden in Portland? So we're trying to get, everything's not lined up yet, but they've asked us to be there, so we're trying to get everything aligned to do that as well.
But it's becoming, it was a lot of cold calls in the beginning, a lot of research, a lot of figuring out what other wineries are doing and seeing if it correlates to something that we'd want to do. And then now it's starting to become, we're meeting people at the events and they're like, oh, we're having an event, come try this event. So we'll just see where it takes us. But yeah, the main goal is to get our name out there right now, get people to know who we are and want to come back and try it again, or they see us on a lineup for an event and say, oh, I'm gonna go, I remember them. Because right now people will walk into our tent or our table and say, oh, who are you? We've never heard of you. So, which is fair. We're brand new, but we're trying to get our name out there.
Well, we talk about the full circle, right? So it's the full circle of us and our story and how we came back around. Now we have a product. Now you got to complete the affinity loop and get people to come back to your brand. So we're on this upper curve coming around, right? So I think once people start coming back and requesting our wines is when you know that you finally made a connection and you're doing it right.
The other part of that I'm curious about is obviously you have your name on a label now. You are putting your wine in front of people. So I'm curious about what the feeling is like with that, having the wine that you've made, the label you've designed with your name on it, and how that has gone so far, how it's been putting it out into the world.
I think when we were labeling, that was probably the best feeling that I had, knowing that all the hard work and all the dedication, in reality, I've been at this for 10 years. It's been a 10-year thing for me, really coming finally here, being able to hold a bottle with our label on it, finished and corked. That was really rewarding for me. Quickly followed by the uncertainty of how am I going to sell all this wine, right? But that was probably the most gratifying moment that I had.
The other thing too is we did an event at a wine bar, and then seeing a reel on Facebook a few weeks later with them showing all the wine, and our wine was on the shelf. That was like, oh wow, look, people can buy our wine other than through us.
Yeah.
And then just going to a friend's house at a party the other night, and he's got his cellar of wine, and he's doing tours showing people, and there's our wine in his cellar. It's those little things that mean a lot to you to realize, wow, people are buying and sharing, and
yeah, some of those things may be lost the bigger you get, and the
right
longer
now,
you've done it. But right now,
exciting.
there's those little things to us that mean a lot.
Or even like a friend in Colorado purchased our wine, shipped it to her, and then she posted a picture of her drinking the glass of wine and saying, wow, this is amazing. But to come full circle, and then some of her friends were realizing, oh, we didn't know you guys were making wine. So it's the little things that mean a lot to us right now. That
just making those connections.
Seeing our label
right?
out there.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about your kind of initial impressions of Oregon and the industry here, and the sort of the welcome you got. So tell me about being part of the industry over the last few years, and especially being a part of the industry over the last year. How does the industry feel to you right now? What have been any changes you've seen, and in 2025, as you're kind of kicking off your brand now, what does the industry look like? What does Oregon wine look like at the moment?
Yeah, so the feeling is still amazing. Right? I think everybody's incredibly friendly. Everybody has similar stories, but different stories. We're all people, right? And just having everybody feels like a friend. I could go up to somebody at a different brand I haven't met, and then you make a connection. And that connection turns into something else, or they invite you to one of their events. Like, it's just very collaborative, knowing that. And then also who do you reach out to for us has been a real thing. Like, I don't know who to go to for insurance. Like, who should I be talking to? I mean, things that are important, right? But have people just say, hey, this person's been great for me, this person's been great, connect with this company. So, that's just part of the networking side of that stuff. Where is it going? it's going great. Like wine in Oregon's an amazing thing. There's nothing to be ashamed about that or wrong. Like it has so much potential. There is so many amazing wines being made. The new styles that are coming out, the new things, I say new styles, but maybe like I mentioned pet nats before, like that's an ancestral method. Like that's not new, it's just new again, right? And so I think these timelines play a factor into things too. Things come and go, and then they re-come again. And so where is that? Like all of a sudden white wines are very interesting to people. I think for the first time in many years, they outsold reds. And so it's a good time for us to be in whites. And offering something along those lines, and I think that's been helpful for our brand. Don't know.
I just like seeing how there's so many new wine varietals that are being introduced to Oregon. Because for Pinot and Chardonnay, it was the main thing for so long, and now as temperatures may be a little bit warmer, people are trying something new in their vineyard. We're seeing a lot new. Because we do all these indie winemaker pop-up type things. So we're seeing all the new exciting stuff people are trying, and it's fun. It's fun to be a part of it. And I'm hoping that we're unique as well, too, that can draw people our direction.
Yeah, just some fun varietals that we've heard of some recent plantings. So Gamay is popular, too, right now, which is I find very interesting. Yeah. It's a very fun wine, but very, very popular.
So obviously you've had a whirlwind of a last year here. Mm-hmm. Tell me about looking ahead. What's on the horizon for the two of you, for the brand, for the two of you? Do you have goals in mind? What have you not done yet that you want to do?
So we looked, when we went in this, we said we're going to give it 3 years. We're going to give it at least 3 years, an honest effort, and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. If things go well, that's going to be our judgment of what happens, I think. And if things don't go so well, then we have a surplus of wine. We just need to manage to get sold off, and maybe we'll go back to.
And we're starting small for that reason, because we don't want to overextend ourselves and then be stuck with product that we're losing money on.
Yeah. So I mean, this is year 2, right? And so this year we're going to introduce a Grenache Blanc, which is a single varietal. And if nobody's had Grenache Blanc, it's very much kind of Sauvignon Blanc-ish, very, very tropical, very refreshing wine. Don't see those a whole lot out here. And finding a source for those was quite a challenge. Mm-hmm. It took me nearly 9 months to locate one. And then from there, we got eyes on some Pigpool and some Bourbon Blanc, potentially some other of those Rhone whites that I've been eyeballing. Of course, these plantings have just started, so these are, maybe, past that 3-year mark. But already trying to get my hooks and connections into those before somebody else swipes them off. Yeah. Where do we see this growing and growing? We've heard so many people say, they started small and it exploded, and we hope that's what happens, right? We hope that's a reality for us. But until that, we're going to stay at our basic production rate until we fill that need. So we've had some pretty deep conversations about not overproducing. It's easy to do. It's easy to make wine. It's hard to sell it. And so just maintaining those numbers on those averages until we can get those loyal followings and those people coming back and requesting the wines. And so we'll just... Until then, we'll be a micro boutique winery.
And that's what we always wanted to do. It's just the two of us, not have employees, be micro boutique, small, simple. This is us. We never saw ourselves going crazy large scale. Maybe a cute little tasting room, storefront that's open a few days a week, but even that's 10 years in the future.
That's what you thought about the wine.
I know. It's in the future. It's not happening yet.
All future conversations based on how fast we can move products. Yep.
Anything else on the horizon for you two outside of wine that you're excited about?
Our daughter's graduating high school next year, so that'll be exciting to figure out where she goes to college.
That'll be a big transition.
And then both our daughters will be playing volleyball in the spring, so at least that's what they say now. That's their goals.
Yeah.
I say that's about it. I mean, between the business and raising kids, that keeps us busy enough.
Yeah, I mean, our personal life, any extra time we have is geared towards family. You know, my dad passed away a year ago. My mom's local. Her mom's close by, and so just having those connections while we still have them, trying to impart those memories and stuff on us, but onto our children as well, are all important. So just, you like booking a lot of trips when we have time in the summer, so.
And we don't really have time this summer, but we have trips booked anyway.
She'll find time.
Where are you going that's exciting?
Our big trip for the year is going to be Canada. We'll be going at the first week of August, and we'll stay up in Banff for a few days. We'll try and head up towards Jasper, but we won't stay up there. And then we've never been to the Golden side by Yoho and Cotenay, so we'll stay over there for a few days, and
Nice.
it'll be fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah, my daughters love wildlife like I do, and I can spend all day long just hunting for wildlife. So.
She says, "Mom, I want to see a grizzly bear."
Yeah. And
There you
last
go.
time we were there, we went the first week of August, and we saw 5 or 6 grizzly bears, 5 or 6 black bears, moose. So we're hoping that we'll see some stuff. So we'll just do lots of hikes, nature stuff.
Nice. Exciting. All the questions that I have for the two of you today. Anything I didn't ask that I should have? Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about today?
Sounds good to me. No,
Yeah,
I
no, I
got
think it was
them all,
good. Yeah.
Thank you both
Lots
so
of
much
information.
for taking the time to share your story with us, sharing
Yeah.
this beautiful day in this beautiful space. We appreciate it. Congratulations on your first year, and best of luck in this, and we'll go ahead and let you off the hook.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Rick.
you so much.
Appreciate it.